staff shortages in our prisons and jails due to prison violence and corruption. I want to talk about those two things. We talk a lot about officers leaving the job because, hey, after 9 months of their first year, they decide this job isn't for me, I'm out of here. Or they decide that they have found greener pastures with more money because they're finding out that they can find $18 and $19 an hour jobs at Walmart or McDonald's and make about as much as they can in some of these jails and prisons across the country without the dangers. So I want to talk about this area of staff shortage. You know, long hours, stress, and things like this are causing staff shortage as well. People are just giving up. But corruption and violence. In several reports that I've read over the last couple of weeks, inmate attacks are just going off the chain. In the last couple of years, one agency reports 96 attacks on medical nurses. Anywhere from groping to serious attacks with serious injuries. So we're talking not only about the uniformed correctional officer, but our civilian staff as well. Why are they leaving the job? You know, we're already outnumbered over 100 to 1 by the inmate population. And we need to be better at controlling the inmate population. But we're being met with outside resistance. For example, some of these monitors, these outside monitors that are appointed by courts, they're coming up with a lot of rules to protect the inmates. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, folks. But can we have some rules to protect our officers and civilian staff as well? I'll give you a little example so you kind of know what I'm talking about. So the monitors say, hey, before you use force, we want you to have a expert mental health person go to the cell and talk to the inmate and see if they can calm them down and determine if a use of force is actually needed. Maybe not in the exact words and terms that I just used, but pretty much that's what they mean. Well, if you have time to do that, and in many cases you do, because we as officers know, hey, there's an inmate acting up, he won't come out for this, he won't come out for that, he's making poop bombs in his cell, he's getting ready to get the officers when they come in, we've got to do something, or he's getting ready to hurt himself. Well, we can get prepared for that. Understood. But I didn't see anything, and I could be wrong, where the monitors on the outside from the courts are putting anything about spontaneous use of force report. You know, officers can't always call for a mental health person, and I hope that their agency is backing the officers. The main reason I want to talk about this, I'm hoping the agency is backing the officers. When an inmate attacks them with some type of weapon or even their fist, and the officer must defend themselves on the spot. We need to make sure that these outside monitors are understanding where we come from, because they've never worked in the jail or prison. They have no clue, these people making the rules from courts and assigning monitors to an agency. They don't understand what the officers have to go through. And someone might say, well, no, if you say it's okay for spontaneous use of force, they'll just say they're all spontaneous uses of force. Not true. We can monitor that, because that's our job. If an officer uses an unauthorized use of force, then we must investigate and we must discipline. We know that. But you've got to leave some doors open to give the officers a chance to survive. Then, the monitors are saying, hey, use of solitary confinement. Some places just want to get rid of it. Well, we've argued that forever, that when an inmate commits a crime and kills another inmate, stabs an officer, you mean we're not going to put them in jail? Yes, I know they're in prison. But, on the street, if somebody hurts a citizen, we put them in jail to separate them from the citizens so they don't harm another citizen. Well, jails and prisons are small cities. We have to have a place to put these bad guys and girls to keep them from harming another inmate, civilian employee, or an officer. We need to get more people to testify in front of these courts who are implementing monitors. We need people to testify in front of these courts to what the officers' side is. And I know we have them in there, but we need to push harder. We have people testifying in court about what our officers go through. But somehow, some way, we need to even this out, because officers are leaving the job. They're saying, hey, I'm just going to tell it like it is. Here's what officers are saying. Every decision made in the courts nowadays is for the inmate and not for us. I'm leaving this job. I have to have some kind of protection. I want to go home to my family at night. But if I can't do my job and enforce discipline when needed, and somebody who's never been trained in corrections from the mental health unit is going to tell me how to do my job, or somebody in court, some judge who's never even seen the inside of a prison is going to tell me how to do my job, then I just need to move on, find me another career. This is what I mean by inmate violence, inmates getting out of hand, inmates not being disciplined, attacking our officers and civilian employees. This is what's running some of our officers off. We'll never recover from staff shortage if we don't do something about that. Okay? Now, folks, the other side of the coin. When we have toxic leadership in our prisons and jails, oh yeah, I'm going to the other side now. How does that cause staff shortage? Well, when I have an illegal use of force and I have a captain and a sergeant on my ship both telling us this is the way we're going to write up this use of force, and an officer goes, but that's not what happened, and they say, you will write this report this way. Seen it happen over and over and over. So for false use of forces are written because now the inmate has a lot of injuries, see, that we need to answer to that shouldn't be there. See, I'm speaking for both sides. I'm trying to be fair and impartial here, folks, because we all want to just run the prison system as smoothly as possible. And we don't want to lose officers. But when this type of case happens, you will usually see they always get caught. They always get charged with falsification of official reports and abuse of an inmate. And you'll see several be terminated at one time. I had a case where 22 were terminated at one time. 2 captains, 2 sergeants, 5 officers. 5 more officers because they saw what happened, didn't report it. Failure to report. And they were good officers, folks. They were scared. Fear of retaliation, afraid to report. And some nurses who didn't report and did what the officers told them to do when they wrote up the medical reports. Fear of retaliation. 22 people on one investigation removed from that prison. Now do you know what I mean by inmate violence on officers is causing staff shortages? People are tired of it, tired of not being able to keep control. Toxic leaders getting people in trouble to cover up something they did wrong. This is violence and corruption in the prison system. It has to stop. A good friend of mine sent me some information. Arthur Fredericks, he's a warden up in North Carolina. He sent me something that I really liked. He said toxic leadership, and he got this from somewhere else as well. Inbreeding, toxic leadership inbreeding. Toxic leaders will hire, train, and enable and protect new toxic leaders and form them. And your leadership change doesn't get better. It just continues to get worse. Until we stop allowing a toxic leader to breed and enable more toxic leaders, nothing's going to be fixed. And I like that, and that's the truth. And it takes time. It takes time to change the culture of a prison or jail with violence and corruption. What prison or jail doesn't have violence or corruption to a point? None. They all do. But we have to grasp it when it gets way out of hand, folks. You have to keep a steady control of it. I just retired from the Polk County Sheriff's Office in Florida. I'm not ashamed to say I did, because anytime they had toxic incidents in their jail, they hit it like Barney Fife, nipped it in the butt, boy. They stopped it immediately before it got out of hand, and that's what you have to do, folks. All right, I've talked on this topic enough. I just want to get out there how violence and corruption in our system is causing much more staff shortage than we think. It's not just the stress and the being overworked and being tired, folks. Thank you very much for listening. Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe.